How do rumors get started? They're started by the jealous people. And as Socrates once said, don't hate, appreciate.
Welcome to WizNugs. Today we're talking about the 6 filters of communication. Now, 3 of these come from Socrates, 3 of them come from Craig Ferguson. We're going to dive right in here with the Socrates.
So there's a story out there that's, I don't know if it's real or not, but it talks about Socrates, and somebody came up to him in the square one day and said that they had heard something about one of his friends, associates. And then he breaks it down into what he calls the 3 sieves, I believe.
Yeah, now that word, I'm gonna flip it right now, and we're just gonna say filters from now on.
Sure.
Because that's basically what we're talking about.
That's what a sieve is. I mean,
modern terms.
Right. A sieve is basically something that you use to filter stuff through,
We'll put
right?
the spelling right here.
Yeah.
And it's sieve or sieve or, sieve, depending on your vowel pronunciation.
Sure.
But just to avoid all that, the filters.
Yes.
Filters. So Socrates had his 3 filters, right? He had the guy come up to him and say, I heard something about your friend. Juicy gossip, dangling the raw meat.
So he took a moment, and what was his first filter, if you would?
The first filter is it true? And if you don't know that it's true, you got to ask yourself, is this something I should be saying?
Right. Because honestly, if you put the shoe on the other foot, as it's said, if it's something that you know isn't true, would you want someone to go around and say those things about you? Especially if you know it's a falsehood. And so it doesn't do anyone any good to go on and put these rumors out that this particular thing happened when there's no evidence to substantiate that claim.
Right. And then you end up just talking, just talking. It's just words. It's just gobbledygook, especially if it's just, well, I heard this thing. I heard that this happened. And none of it's true and none of it is verifiable even. Then what do you, or if it is something that could be verified, and you don't bother to verify because, well, I don't want to click the links in the story to find out where this information came from. It's easier just to repeat the headline.
And we see that a lot. We see that a lot in what we call clickbait. And that's the very misleading title on the article. Dave Bautista says he's glad to be done with playing Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. And you're like, what are you talking about? I love that character. Why would he hate? I mean, as far as I know, he loved that character.
He must hate Marvel.
Yeah, but that was his breaking point. That's what got him back into the movies and everything else. And what? How could he be so ungrateful? And then you actually go in there and you read it.
I skip that even. I go to from the read it down to the here's a video of the actual article. Now in school in history class they refer to this as a primary source.
Right.
You've got primary sources, which is the people actually saying the thing. If you can go get, I don't know, George Washington's journals or letters or whatever, you can see what he was thinking at the time, or at least what he told people, right?
And then secondary source is hearsay, right? And so that's why it's not even allowed in courts, because you said you heard someone say something, but that's secondary source.
Someone told me that he said that. Yeah. It's different.
Yep.
So in this case, verify it. Go to the source if you can. When we're talking about scientific literature, sometimes you can go through and actually go get to the study. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to start reading 30, 40-page studies. I don't even do that, and I like researching. But every study that's scientific of any nature has, at the very beginning, they call the executive summary.
Okay.
And there's a couple of paragraphs where they kinda, sorta, almost put it in layman's terms. Then the news media takes the executive summary and dumbs it down to a 3rd grade level and then says, for example, this was one that I heard, was you shouldn't take ibuprofen because it will double your risk of heart attack.
Right.
Now for me, when I've got a bad headache, I take ibuprofen. I'm not saying everybody should or shouldn't or whatever, but I heard this. It was told to me as you need to stop that. You watch out. The news told me to double your risk of heart attack. You're going to die of a heart attack now because you take this for your headaches. I went through and I found the study and I found the executive summary, and what it said was it does double. That's true.
Right.
From 0.001% to 0.002%.
Right.
For a short period of time after you've taken the ibuprofen.
Negatable.
It's so small for me in my life that I choose to take that risk.
Right.
That's what this is about. The study can tell you what the risks are. and then you can choose what you're going to do with them.
You would think that having a constant headache would be a greater factor of having a heart attack, of constantly being in pain and suffering versus getting the alleviation of such symptoms.
That's kind of the other part of this, is that there's balance, right?
So what was the next thing?
The second filter that Socrates had, according to the story, is it kind?
Okay.
Is the thing you're about to tell me about this person kind? Is it going to help anything in any way? Or are you just telling me this because, well, I heard that he's a bad person, and I just wanted you to know. You should know this.
Yeah, you hang around with bad people. Well, do you know that for true? Well, no.
Don't you want to disavow him?
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be canceled?
Right. So that's the perfect example in this case.
In Socrates' time, ostracized?
It's because they don't think the way that the rest of us think, then, you should not hang around with them. And if you continue to hang around with them, then you're making yourself just as bad as he is, if not worse, because you're choosing to do it. What he said was just dumb. What he did was just dumb, but you're agreeing with it by continuing to be his friend. So what purpose does that serve?
And we can think about if we're doing things just to, because the sharing of information is somehow now just the topmost thing. So first of all, we don't even know if it's true. According to the story, the person answers, no, I don't know if it's true.
Right.
And then, is it kind? No. No, in fact, it's the opposite. This is harmful. Like, duh, that's why it's so juicy.
Yeah, dirty South. That's what it is.
And then the third question was, is it useful? Is this useful information that I'm going to be able to do something with? No? You just want me to know that something that this guy that I hang out with sometimes did something bad, and that's all? Just to know that? Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm out.
Again, I think the second one, when we take the example of a second of being canceled, and we take that and we apply that to the third one, being useful, we as the individual say, I don't find any use in that. The person telling you it thinks it's useful because, well, you have to disavow them. Mm-hmm. You have to say that you don't agree with them and what they said was wrong, and you thought they were different. It's obviously you didn't know who they were. That's how it's useful to you. Well, I don't see it that way. I see it as something that you haven't instantiated at all. I also see it as something that's very mean and nasty and hateful.
And you don't even know if it's true.
And you don't know it's true.
Yeah.
And so because of those first two, you think it's useful to me because you want me to disavow them. But I don't find it any use to me because the first part is it's not true, or at least you don't know it's true. The secondly, it's mean and nasty. And because of your perceptions, I'm supposed to do a thing about it, or it's supposed to mean something to me now? I don't think so. You obviously don't know me.
And it's possible, and this is something that I found kind of myself doing after learning about this, like these filters, is that I just kind of have started just doing this a little bit more thoughtfully, so that if I read a story that's got something to say about some celebrity and whether or not a thing happened in their life, I'm like, okay, all right, interesting. And then it's gone. And it's not something that I go and talk to everybody about, like, oh my gosh, did you hear about this? This happened. This person is doing this thing. And it's like, I don't care what Taylor Swift's relationship status is, or whether a former Beatle did a certain thing, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, or like there's all of these rumors and things that have gone on about all these different people. And it's like, okay, I'll file it away. And it's, I'm not going to just like, this did not happen. I did not learn about this. But you just kind of file it away, and then someone else tells you about it, be like, yeah, I heard that. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if it's true or not. Do I really care? Not really. So I have a mixed bag when it comes to celebrities, and I realize this is a tangent, but you bring it up, and I know that celebrities probably have to deal with this much more than maybe the regular person has to deal with it, and that's being subject to being in the limelight all the time. Is that their lives are going to be scrutinized to the nth degree, right? They were out so-and-so with so-and-so last night till 3 o'clock in the morning having a booze fest with their buddies, and things got a little out of hand, and they have like TMZ following them everywhere they go. And so it's a mixed bag for me in the sense of like, you shouldn't be treating people that way. Let them live their lives and enjoy them. Now, if they do something that's truly unscrupulous, then maybe bring that up at some point in time where if it has meaning. But at the same time, I feel like, and again, this might be slightly callous, so I apologize. you kind of know what celebrities are subject to on a regular because you see it all the time, like the clickbait stuff and like I said, TMZ.
Yeah.
And so when you hit that celebrity status, there should be the expectation that the wolves are going to bare their teeth, and they're going to come out and they're going to come out hard and they're going to try to do everything they can to bring you down. And I don't want to think negatively about people like that all the time, but I do think that you have to be prepared for that in when you're being exposed to the world, because for some reason misery loves company, and it's great to have everyone feel crappy about themselves if you feel crappy about yourself.
So when the WizNugs train starts taking off,
Right.
something we got to watch out for. So Craig Ferguson, for people who don't know, speaking of celebrity, I suppose, he was a stand-up comedian and late-night talk show host several years ago now.
I loved him. I love watching his shows.
One of the bits that I caught from him, I think it was on YouTube, so I got it sort of secondhand, but right from his mouth.
Right.
And he's talking in this particular bit. He talks about how people are just as mean as they've always been, but the speed of technology makes it faster to share your opinions.
Right.
So if you get mad about something, clickety click click, post. It's done. It's on the internet. Everybody can see it. There's been no self-editing. There's been no checking in with is it true? Is it kind? Is it useful? There's none of that. He goes, in old times, you had to like learn to read and write. You had to make parchment. You had to make yourself a quill and make your own ink. And then in medieval times, you got to make the big giant fancy letter with all of its little doodads and twirly whirlies and your little castle and the brook and a tiger. And by the end of the exercise, you're like, oh, I don't care that much.
The anger is dissipated by this point in time.
It took more time to put it into words that were shareable.
Right.
And now it's just bip, 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 and it's done. And it happens oftentimes before we even think about it. And it's so normalized in today's culture that it's not even like, should we be doing this? So he shares the three things you have to ask yourself. So we're going to add these to Socrates' three filters. These are Craig Ferguson's three things to ask yourself. Now, the first one is, does this need to be said?
Right. Is it helpful? Is it actually going to bring value to something?
Is it something that I just want to say? Or is it something that needs to be said? If I don't know, I'm thinking about like the little things that happen around the house. Like how hurtful can that be to relationships if you just say every passing thought that comes into your head, especially if you're in a bad mood, one day. And as human beings, we have good moods, we have bad moods. Nobody is a ray of sunshine every minute of every day.
If you've been married for any given amount of time, things that you thought were cute or nice, or like, oh, isn't that nice the way that, he does that with the clothes on the floor? Or isn't that cute the way that she constantly moves my things around after I've meticulously put it in a particular place? That's where I want it to be. It's cute at first, and you're like, oh, okay, they're just being thoughtful, or that's just their way. And then over time, it's like, can you just leave my stuff alone?
I'm thinking of there's two, right? There's two that come up constantly. I'm a dad.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I spend probably a third of my life walking around the house turning off lights in rooms that nobody is in.
Yep.
Now, do I need to yell and scream and carry on and tell everybody all the time about, I turned off the lights again, you left a room and you didn't turn off the light? It doesn't matter that much. It's not that big a deal. The electric bill is not going to come down by the hundreds because everybody suddenly starts turning off all their lights. If this is something that bothers me, then I can just handle it. The second thing is the toilet paper roll, right? Everybody, well, I mean, unless you've completely made the switch over to the bidet system, which I don't totally understand. So moving on, the toilet paper roll is one of those things where it's like, everybody feels like they're the only one that ever changes it. Do we have to talk about it? Do we have to say, well, I changed the toilet paper roll. If you changed the toilet paper roll, then I wouldn't have to spend 45 seconds of my time taking the old one off and putting the new one on. You should be doing this because you used the last square. So does it need to be said? Do we need to start an argument about changing the toilet paper roll? Just change the toilet paper roll. Get over yourself. Get on with it. I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody else, but just Just do it. Just do the thing. If you're going to say, it's not that hard, you should do this too. Remember, you just told yourself it's not that hard. Just do the thing.
There's are things that we need to do in our life that are a community benefit. And that's changing the toilet paper roll, right? There are going to be things that we have to do in order to keep harmony in the household. That's not self-serving.
Putting the toilet seat down, right? We put it down. If you see that someone else left it up, just put it down real quick. It doesn't need to become a federal case. Just handle it.
The movie that I'm thinking about, it's Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell, John Lithgow. I can't remember. I saw only the bit. Oh, and Mel Gibson. A whole scene on the thermostat. And they're like, it's so hot in here. Why is it so hot? And they're all like sweating, right? And they come out and they're like, did you touch the thermostat? Did you touch the thermostat? No. And then turns out it's like the daughter of Mark Wahlberg or whatever it is, or the stepdaughter or whatever it is. And they're all standing in the hallway all sweaty and stuff like that. And they're looking at her and she's like turning it up again because she's still cold. Like, what are you doing?
Put on a jacket.
Who told
Get
you?
a blanket.
Yeah, who told you could touch the thermostat? And it's a trope because I've seen so many films and TV shows where that's dad's device. Nobody touches that but dad because dad pays the bills. And therefore, he's the one in control of it. I think it's an overplayed trope.
Well, it's one of those things where if it's something that really bothers you that you feel like needs to be talked about, then, okay, you ask yourself that first question, does it need to be said? If the answer is yes, then fine, fair enough. You've at least asked yourself the question rather than just jumping into this whole thing. But if you're going to just handle it, then just handle it. You don't have to tell everybody everything that you've handled for your whole life just to get the little pat on the back or to try and make them feel bad that they didn't do the thing first. So the second of Craig Ferguson's 3 things to ask yourself is, does it need to be said by me?
Right.
Is this something that I need to say right now? And I can't tell you how many comment sections on every social media outlet is something that, does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? Probably not.
Right.
Am I the one, as the armchair expert, the Monday morning quarterback, that's going to say all the things that they should have did it this way? Oh, I can't believe that politician did that thing. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that this corporation is doing this thing. Make your choice about what you're going to do. Get on with it.
Most of the time, at least for the past several years, I've abstained from making commentary on any kind of social media post. Why? Because it really doesn't serve any purpose. I already know how I feel about a thing. I already know what my opinion is. Is anyone else going to appreciate it? More than likely, no. So if it doesn't really serve a purpose, if it's not going to be helpful and it doesn't need to be said by me, then I don't need to.
If you want to, this is one of those exercises that's come up in counseling, and I think it's a useful thing here. If you go through all these questions and you still just have to get it off your chest, write it down on paper.
Yep.
Or on a file on your computer or whatever. But make sure if you're going to save it, don't put it somewhere that it's going to be easily like printed or shared. Write it down. Get the ideas out of your head. This can be very cathartic. It can be very helpful. This can be a positive thing. Write it all down and then fold it up and don't send it. Don't give it to anybody. Just write it down. Come back and review it in a day, 2 days, a week, whatever. If you still feel very strongly about this, that this is something that you need to say, then go for it. Send it or edit it and then send it. That kind of leads into the third question, or I guess skips over. The third question is, does it need to be said by me right now?
Right.
And that's kind of that thing where we've got ourselves as a society in this place where whatever emotion I'm feeling right now is the most important thing, and everybody needs to know about it. Because if I'm upset, then my whole family's got to suffer because I'm upset.
Yeah, and what purpose does that serve? Are you really trying to get people to see your point of view, or are you just mad and angry and you want everyone else to be mad and angry? What is the purpose of it? We've all had experiences in our life where we've had to deal with somebody who is being emotionally disagreeable, for lack of a better word. And we've had to try to deal with them and communicate with them. And you've probably found out that it's next to impossible. The best thing you can do is walk away. Let them go through their emotional tunnel, get it out of their system, whatever they need to do to go through their process of getting back down to a calm state, and don't interact with it at that point in time, because it's not going to be in your benefit to try to match that energy. And this is speaking from personal experience. Don't do it. So, does it need to be said by me right now? Probably not. In most cases, not. Now, the only difference is going to be is like John just fell down into the well, the old abandoned well.
There's urgency there.
And we need to go take care of him right now. Not, John, I heard that John and Jake were hanging out down by the water hole, and they were putting all kinds of weird stuff down into the water well, and you know how them boys can be. Point being, does that serve a purpose? Did it need to be said? Did it need to be said by me? Did it need to be said by me at this moment? No, none of those things are true in that case.
And so I think this is another like little nugget of wisdom that we can tack onto this. So those are the 6 things, right?
Right.
The extra little thing that we put on the end there is if you notice that you're feeling like you really need to say this because you're in an agitated emotional state, get a drink of water, get yourself a snack, go for a walk.
Yep.
If you can get out of the situation, the surroundings that you're in that moment, maybe the people that are annoying you or whatever, you move on. You get yourself that drink of water because maybe you're just dehydrated. Maybe your brain is seizing up because it needs fluid. Maybe your blood sugar is low and that's causing a problem. And we don't know this. And so the emotion manifests as anger, right? We've talked about this before.
Right.
These are easy things that we can do in that moment if we're feeling like we just really need to do that. Take a walk, get some fresh air, move your body. This is another thing I heard from Andrew Huberman was the fight or flight response that pops up, that going for a walk or a run, you're mobilizing your body and your brain into forward motion. That basically turns off that fight or flight and says, oh, I guess we're running toward something now.
Right.
I'm okay. Maybe that means fight. Maybe that means flight, right? But whatever it is, it's neutralized and you're moving.
So in summation, learn to discern the difference between something that's truthful and helpful and useful, between something that's just a rumor and might be hurtful or harmful to someone else. And does it really need to be said by you? There are going to be a lot of things that we hear and things that are said by other people that really we don't need to even take part in.
And by asking yourself these 6 questions, hopefully you can avoid a lot of misery. Thanks for joining us on WizNugs. We hope to see you again next time.
Thanks for joining us today on WizNugs. If you liked what you heard, spread the word. For more information, head over to mywiznugs.com.